What if a few quiet habits were secretly cutting your life short after 60? It sounds scary, but many of us unknowingly fall into subtle lifestyle traps that nibble away at our health in our golden years. They don't announce themselves with loud warnings. Instead, they creep in silently during our everyday routines. As an old-timer who's seen a thing or two, I want to share some hard-earned wisdom about these 6 hidden dangers and gentle ways to avoid them. Each trap comes with a simple story and a simple solution so you can keep enjoying life for many years to come. Let's dive in, my friend. 1. The inactivity trap: too much sitting. Do you ever settle into your favorite armchair and suddenly realize hours have flown by? I sure have. After retirement, I thought I deserved endless relaxation. I'd spent decades waking up early for work, so once I hit 60, sinking into the couch with the newspaper felt like heaven. But here's the catch: that heavenly armchair can become a silent trap. Too much sitting day in and day out quietly erodes our health. We might not feel it at first. What's the harm in a little rest? Haven't we earned it? I used to ask myself that with a chuckle. It turns out our bodies were meant to move, even in our later years. I learned this the hard way watching my friend Walter. He retired at 65 and joked that he was now a professional couch tester. Every time I visited, I'd find Walter in the same spot on his recliner, remote in hand. At first it looked like bliss: no meetings, no chores, just the TV and a cozy blanket. But as months passed, I noticed Walter's energy draining. His cheeks grew pale, and walking even a block left him winded. One day he struggled up the few steps to his front door, chest heaving. It scared him and me enough that he finally saw a doctor. The verdict: his heart and muscles were weakening from sitting too long and too often. All that inactivity had snuck up on him. Walter's experience woke me up. I started reading up on this sitting disease we'd both slipped into. I discovered that scientists actually call prolonged sitting the new smoking because of how harmful it is. In fact, a rigorous study in 2024 found that older women who sat for over 11 hours a day had a 30% higher risk of early death. 30%. That statistic stunned me. Something as simple as too much sitting can raise the risk of dying as much as some serious diseases. And it didn't matter if those women also did some vigorous exercise. Long hours on their bottoms still took a toll. When I read that, I stood up from my chair immediately, almost on reflex. I remember asking myself, could it really be this bad? I feel fine just resting. Surely a little TV can't hurt, right? The truth is, when we sit for long stretches, our body quietly starts to shut down in certain ways. A respected researcher, Dr. Andrea Lacroix, explained that when you sit, your blood flow slows and your muscles go idle, which messes with how your body uses sugar and fats. It makes sense. Think of a car idling in the driveway. It's on but not really going anywhere, and eventually the engine gets gunky. Our bodies are similar. Sitting too much increases the risk of blood clots, weight gain, and even dementia over time. It's a sneaky kind of damage because you don't feel it at once. You feel comfortable, not in pain. That's why it's a trap. How do we dodge the inactivity trap? The answer isn't to run a marathon. It's to weave gentle movement into our day. I started small myself. Inspired by those studies, I made a deal with my wife. Every hour, we'd remind each other to stand up and stretch, even just for a minute. We put a little kitchen timer to ring hourly. At first, I'd grumble when it went off, "Leave me alone, I'm reading." But I'd sigh, smile, and stand up anyway. Sometimes I'd walk to the mailbox or make a cup of tea. Other times, I'd simply stand and march in place during TV commercials. Silly? Maybe, but it helped. I began to feel less stiff and more energetic. I also dusted off an old hobby, gardening. Tending to my tomatoes and roses got me bending, walking, and lifting watering cans without thinking of it as exercise. Before I knew it, I was moving my body a couple of hours a day in total, just in little bits. And wouldn't you know, I started sleeping better and my doctor said my blood pressure improved. My friend Walter joined me on short evening walks. We'd shuffle down the block and back, 2 stubborn old guys determined to reclaim our strength. At first, he huffed and puffed, but each week it got easier for him. We made it a ritual, a daily stroll to catch the sunset. Those walks not only helped Walter's stamina, they lifted his mood. He'd grin and say, "I feel alive again, who'd have thought?" Let me reassure you, you don't need to become a gym rat or athlete. Just avoid staying glued to one spot for too long. Some longevity experts suggest standing up every 20-30 minutes if you can. Take breaks. Walk to the kitchen, step outside for a breath of fresh air, do a few light stretches. Even gentle housework or dancing to a favorite song counts as movement. Every little bit helps keep the blood flowing. Remember, our ancestors in their 70s and 80s were out tending fields or walking to neighbors. Movement was naturally built into life. We have to be a bit more intentional about it now. Personally, I also joined a local seniors Tai Chi class. Twice a week, a group of us meets in the park, moving slowly and intentionally. It's done wonders for my balance and flexibility, and it's fun being around others. More on social connection later. Most importantly, listen to your body. If your back aches from too much sitting or you feel sluggish in the afternoon, it's a gentle nudge to get moving. Start with baby steps. Park a little farther from the store or do an extra lap around the living room. As I often remind myself, motion is the magic potion. By staying active in small ways, we keep our muscles strong, our hearts healthy, and we break free from the deadly comfort of the couch. The inactivity trap loses its grip on us, and we gain more vibrant years of life. So stand up whenever you remember. Your body will thank you, and so will your future self. 2. The unhealthy diet trap, eating the wrong things. Do you have a bit of a sweet tooth or a love for salty snacks? Me too. Let me tell you, I've spent far too many afternoons in my 60s indulging in cookies with my tea or heating up convenient frozen dinners. It's so easy, isn't it? No cooking, no fuss, just pop something in the microwave or grab a bag of chips. After all, at our age, haven't we earned the right to eat whatever we want? That's what I thought. I vividly remember a small story here. A few years ago, on my 62nd birthday, my grandchildren got me a big box of my favorite chocolates. Every evening I'd sit in my armchair, yes, that same armchair from the previous trap, and unwrap a couple of those chocolates. It became a comforting ritual, a little reward after dinner. But over time, those couple of chocolates turned into 4 or 5. And on lazy days, instead of cooking veggies and soup like my wife and I used to, we'd order pizza or Chinese takeout. Tasty, yes, but healthy, not so much. I started noticing my pants getting tighter and my energy dipping. One afternoon, after a heavy fast food lunch, I felt chest flutters and an odd fatigue. That scared me enough to see my doctor, who gently pointed out that my cholesterol and blood sugar were creeping up. He said, "It's time to pay attention to what you're eating, or your body will pay the price." In other words, I was caught in the unhealthy diet trap, and it was silently setting me up for trouble. Many of us fall into this trap after 60. Cooking a full meal can feel like a chore, especially if it's just for 1 or 2 people. Our taste buds crave the comfort of salty chips, sugary desserts, or rich restaurant meals. Plus, advertisers promise that this cereal will boost our heart health or that frozen-in tray is natural and healthy. It's hard to know what to believe. The result? We end up eating too many processed foods, things like white bread, deli meats, canned soups, sodas, and sweets, and not enough of the good stuff, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, lean proteins. These convenient foods are sneaky. They fill us up and quietly damage our bodies from the inside. Let's talk about what the science says for a moment. Researchers have found a strong link between diets high in ultra-processed foods and shorter lifespans. One large study of about 45,000 adults over 45 years old showed that the more ultra-processed food people ate, the higher their risk of an earlier death, especially from heart disease and cancers. Think about that. It means that those daily sodas or that pile of cookies aren't just adding pounds. They could be stealing years from us. Why? Because these foods tend to be packed with sugar, salt, unhealthy fats, and preservatives. They drive up our blood pressure, clog our arteries, spike our blood sugar, and fuel inflammation in the body. And often they're low in the vitamins, fiber, and protein our aging bodies truly need. I confess, when I first heard terms like inflammation and ultra-processed, it sounded like jargon. But it boils down to this simple story. Imagine your body's like a well-tended garden. Junk food is like weeds and pests. A few weeds won't kill a garden overnight, but if you ignore them, pretty soon the garden's choked and the plants wither. In our bodies, junk food every now and then is okay, but too much, too often chokes our vital organs over the years. We may not see the effects until one day we're told we have diabetes or a heart condition. It creeps up silently, a true trap. I recall visiting my cousin Maria, who is also in her 60s, a couple years back. She had been feeling off, low energy, some dizziness, and discovered her blood pressure was sky high. Turns out Maria loved her canned soups and salted crackers. She figured they were light, easy meals. But those cans and crackers were loaded with sodium. All that excess salt was raising her blood pressure, putting strain on her heart. High blood pressure is fittingly called a silent killer, because it often has no symptoms while it quietly damages your heart and arteries. When she cut back on those foods and started cooking fresh vegetables and using herbs for flavor instead of salt, her blood pressure came down to normal over a few months. She told me she felt reborn, more energetic and clear-headed just by changing her diet. So, how do we dodge the unhealthy diet trap without feeling miserable or deprived? It starts with small, realistic tweaks. You don't have to go full vegan or swear off dessert forever. I still enjoy a good chocolate chip cookie now and then. Here's what helped me and many friends. Add more alive foods to your plate. By alive, I mean fruits, vegetables, nuts, beans, things that come from nature, not a factory. I began tossing a handful of berries or a banana into my breakfast cereal instead of extra sugar. At lunch, I'd add some cut-up tomatoes and cucumber beside my sandwich. Little by little, I developed a taste for fresh foods again. Now, I actually crave an apple or a bunch of grapes in the afternoon. They give a sweet burst of energy without the crash that a candy bar would give. Cut down the packaged stuff gradually. When grocery shopping, I started reading labels, especially looking at sugar and sodium content. It was shocking. A single can of soup could have half my day's salt, and a healthy yogurt could hide 5 teaspoons of sugar. So I switched to low-sodium soups and unsweetened yogurt, with a drizzle of honey for taste. Instead of potato chips, I keep nuts or carrot sticks around for snacking. If I do buy something like chips, I go for the smallest bag to limit my intake. Remember, it's not about zero treats, it's about moderation. Stay hydrated with water. Often we mistake thirst for hunger. I found that having a glass of water before each meal not only keeps me hydrated, but also prevents overeating. Plus, water helps our digestion and can even keep our skin looking better. I traded sugary sodas for sparkling water with a squeeze of lemon, refreshing and healthy. Mind your portions. In our 60s, our metabolism slows down. We simply don't need as many calories as we did in our 30s or 40s. I learned to serve myself on smaller plates. Psychologically, a full small plate feels satisfying, whereas a big dinner plate with the same amount can look sparse. This trick helped me reduce portion sizes without feeling like I was missing out. Let me share a small victory. My wife and I started a new tradition of cooking together twice a week, trying a healthy recipe each time. Neither of us is a master chef, but we experiment. A colorful salad with grilled chicken one day, a hearty vegetable stew another. Not only did our diets improve, but cooking became a fun activity we looked forward to. If you live alone, maybe try cooking with a friend or share recipes with family. Engaging with your food, selecting fresh ingredients, smelling the herbs, savoring the flavors, actually rekindles your appreciation for healthy meals. It did for me. Food became joyful fuel, not just filler. And yes, I still enjoy birthday cake and the occasional burger. Life is to be enjoyed. The key is, I've made those treats occasional rather than daily staples. By doing so, you nourish your body instead of punishing it. You maintain a healthy weight more easily, keep your blood pressure and blood sugar in check, and actually feel better day to day. Many folks report their joint pains ease and their mood lifts when they cut back on sugars and processed foods. I noticed that too. In essence, the way out of the diet trap is through mindful eating. Pay attention to what you eat and how it makes you feel. Your body has an amazing way of responding when you feed it right. Since I changed my eating habits, my doctor gives me a thumbs up every checkup. But the real reward, having the steady energy to play with my grandkids and the clear-headedness to keep enjoying my hobbies well into my 70s. Healthy eating adds life to your years and years to your life. Remember, it's never too late. Even small changes today can make a big difference in how many vibrant tomorrows you get. 3. The isolation trap, loneliness and social withdrawal. Do you ever go a whole day without speaking to a single soul? It can happen easily, especially after 60. Maybe you live alone, or your family is busy, or friends have moved away. The house grows quiet. At first, the silence might feel peaceful, a welcome rest from the hustle of earlier decades. I used to relish quiet mornings with just my coffee for company, but there were days when that peaceful silence turned into annoying loneliness. The phone might not ring, the hours stretch on, and by evening I'd realize I hadn't heard my own voice all day. Loneliness had snuck in, and let me tell you, it's more than just a sad feeling, it's a health risk. I learned that the hard way one particularly dreary Sunday when I found myself staring at old photo albums, missing long-gone friends, feeling a heaviness in my chest that had nothing to do with heart disease. I was simply lonely. Let me share the story of my neighbor Ruth. She's a sweet lady, a widow in her early 70s. After her husband passed, Ruth gradually stopped coming to our community bingo nights. She'd wave from her porch and say, "I'm fine, just keeping to myself." Weeks would pass and I wouldn't see her. One day I dropped by with some extra soup I had made. Ruth invited me in, and as we sat in her tidy living room, she suddenly broke into tears. "I don't know what's wrong with me," she said. "I have no energy, I feel low for no reason." We talked for an hour and the truth came out. She was lonely. Her kids called once a week, but most of the time it was just her and the TV. In her words, "It's like I'm fading away with no one to talk to." My heart ached for her. I realized I had been giving her space, not wanting to intrude, but what she needed was connection. Loneliness is indeed a silent trap that can cut life short. It's not just in our heads, it affects our bodies deeply. When we feel lonely or isolated, our stress levels go up. We might sleep poorly, our blood pressure can rise, and our immune system weakens. In fact, extensive research has shown that social isolation can increase the risk of early death by around 30%. 30% is no small number. That's comparable to the risk from smoking or obesity. Another study described loneliness as being as harmful as smoking 15 cigarettes a day, in terms of the toll it takes on health. A startling comparison, isn't it? Loneliness and isolation have been linked with higher risks of heart disease, stroke, depression, and even Alzheimer's disease. It can literally break your heart, as chronic loneliness often leads to higher blood pressure and inflammation. Yet unlike a smoking habit or a junk food diet, which are visible, loneliness is hidden behind closed doors and polite smiles. I saw the effects in Ruth. Her loneliness was contributing to her fatigue and low mood. And I saw it in myself on occasion. If I spent too much time alone, I'd get irritable or anxious for no apparent reason. Humans are social creatures, even those of us who are introverted. Our hearts and minds need regular connection like our bodies need food and water. Without it, we starve emotionally, and that ultimately impacts us physically. How can we dodge the isolation trap? It might feel challenging to make friends or socialize at our age, but it's absolutely possible and so rewarding. Start with small connections. Every bit of social interaction is like a lifeline pulling you out of the pit of loneliness. Here are some gentle suggestions, the same ones I shared with Ruth. Reach out to old friends or family regularly. Don't wait for them to call. I know it can feel like you're being a bother, believe me. I hesitated to call my adult children sometimes, thinking they're busy. But one day I realized I could simply text or call and say hi. Now I have a little calendar reminder to either call or message at least one loved one each day. It could be as simple as thinking of you, hope you have a great day. Often, it sparks a short but sweet conversation. My spirits lift immediately after hearing a familiar voice or getting a loving reply. Your family and longtime friends care about you. Sometimes they just need a nudge. Invite connection into your routine. If you enjoy coffee in the morning, consider having it on your porch or at a local cafe where you might exchange a greeting with a neighbor or the barista. I started taking morning walks and made it a point to smile and say hello to people I passed. Over time, those little hellos turned into brief chats about the weather or our gardens. These may seem like trivial interactions, but they gave me a sense of belonging to a community. Join activities or groups. This can be hard if you're shy, but remember, many folks in their 60s and beyond are looking for companionship too. Senior centers, community colleges, and churches often have gatherings, anything from knitting circles to book clubs to exercise classes tailored for seniors. I joined a local walking club. I still recall the first day I showed up. I felt like the new kid at school, nervous, but I was welcomed warmly. We were all there for the same reason, to stay active and be around others. Now those walking buddies are a cherished part of my week. Ruth, my neighbor, took my advice and started attending the community bingo and potluck nights again. She even joined a church group that visits homebound seniors. Imagine that. Someone who was lonely found purpose in comforting other lonely folks, and it helped her as much as them. She tells me her days have meaning again. Consider a pet. If you love animals, a dog or cat can be a wonderful companion. They provide unconditional love and someone to care for, which can ease loneliness tremendously. A pet also often encourages you to stick to a routine, walks for the dog, or playtime with the cat, and can even be a conversation starter with other people. I've met many neighbors at the dog park. Of course, only get a pet if you're able and truly want one. They are a responsibility. But even visiting a friend's dog or volunteering at an animal shelter can give that warm, fuzzy connection feeling. Leverage technology wisely. Technology is a double-edged sword. Watching TV or scrolling the internet can sometimes increase feelings of isolation if it replaces real interaction. But used correctly, it can connect us. I learned to use video calls with a little coaching from my granddaughter. Now I have a weekly video chat with my old army buddy who lives across the country. Seeing his face and laughing over old memories, it's like we're sitting in the same room again. If you're not tech-savvy, ask a family member to help set up something like Zoom or WhatsApp on your phone or computer. A bit of patient teaching, and you'll unlock the ability to virtually visit faraway loved ones. It's not the same as a hug in person, but it sure is a joy on an otherwise lonely day. Now, I won't pretend it's always easy to break out of isolation. Sometimes we get stuck in our ways or we feel anxious about putting ourselves out there. Start small and be proud of each effort. Maybe today you just chat with the grocery store clerk for an extra minute, or you call that cousin you haven't spoken to in months. Celebrate that. These connections are like bridges. They get stronger each time you cross them. There was a time after a close friend of mine passed away that I started withdrawing, as if crawling into a shell. What saved me was another friend literally knocking on my door and saying, "Come on, we're going to the senior center for lunch." I grumbled, but I went. That social interaction, as simple as sharing a table and talking about local news, pulled me back from the edge of deep loneliness. I felt human again, part of the world. If you don't have someone dragging you out like I was lucky to have, be that person for yourself. Push yourself gently. I deserve companionship and laughter because you do. We all do. Life after 60 can be incredibly rich with friendships. Some of the best friends of my life I met in my retirement years. It's never too late to make a new friend or reconnect with an old one. I often say hearts need other hearts to stay beating strong. By staying connected, whether through family, friends, community groups, or even a friendly chat with a neighbor, you nourish your emotional well-being. Studies back this up. Having positive social relationships in older age is linked with better health and longer life. One study even found that lack of social connections was associated with a higher risk of death, whereas those with good social ties lived longer on average. But beyond studies and stats, I think of the genuine smiles, the shared jokes, the comforting words during tough times. These human moments give life its glow. They make us want to greet another day. So if you find yourself in the isolation trap, take heart. The door out is there, and usually it opens with a simple hello. Reach out. Someone is likely waiting on the other side, just as eager to connect with you. Together, we break this trap and keep each other vibrant and alive. By the way, if you're finding these insights helpful, please do me a small favor. Give this video a like and subscribe to our Glowing Age community. It's a simple way to stay connected with more warm wisdom on living your best life. We're all in this journey together, and your support means a lot. It helps us share more stories and tips with wonderful people like you. Thank you for being here with me. Now let's continue and illuminate the next trap to avoid. For the stress trap, carrying the weight of worry. Do you find yourself worrying more these days? Lying awake at night fretting about health, finances, or the state of the world? If so, you're not alone. After 60, life can present plenty of new anxieties, and many of us have a lifetime of memories, some regretful or painful, that can weigh on our minds. I call this the stress trap, and it's a quiet killer of joy and vitality. I remember in my late 50s, I started getting tension headaches. My doctor asked if I was under stress. I almost laughed. At my age, I'm retired. What could I be stressed about? The truth was, I was carrying a ton of worry inside, even in retirement. I worried about my children's lives, my pension, little aches and pains that I feared were serious illnesses. I worried about being worried too much, if that makes sense. It became a habit, my mind always on the lookout for what could go wrong next. One particular night stands out in my memory. I was 63. That day I had had an argument with my brother about some old family issue. By bedtime, my heart was still pounding from anger and hurt. I got into bed but couldn't sleep. Instead, I replayed the argument over and over, thinking of sharper retorts I should have made, then feeling guilty about my anger, then worrying, what if I lose my relationship with my brother over this? Round and round my mind went. At 2 a.m., I was still awake, stomach churning. Suddenly, I felt a crushing chest pain. Panicked, I woke my wife and we went to the hospital. Thankfully, it was not a heart attack. It was something called stress-induced angina, basically a severe chest pain caused by a spike in blood pressure and stress hormones. The ER doctor gently told me, "Your heart is fine, sir, but you need to find ways to relax. Stress can hurt you." I will never forget that warning: stress can hurt you. I always thought stress was just an emotional thing, but it can have real physical consequences. Chronic stress and unchecked anxiety act like a poison that seeps into every part of our body. When we're stressed, our body releases cortisol and adrenaline hormones that are useful in short bursts, like if you need to escape danger, but harmful when they flood us constantly. They raise blood pressure, strain the heart, and can mess with blood sugar levels and immune function. Over time, living with high stress can contribute to heart disease, stroke, digestive problems, and even memory loss. There's evidence that chronic stress accelerates aging at the cellular level too. For instance, stress, along with related habits like poor sleep, was linked to a 20–30% higher risk of death in a study of older adults. That's significant. And an analysis found that a portion of premature deaths, about 8%, could be attributed to living with anxiety or depression. In short, worry can indeed take years off your life if it's not managed, a true trap, because worrying often feels like we're doing something, at least in our heads, when in reality we're just tearing ourselves down. So how do we escape the stress trap, especially when life will give us things to worry about? I won't claim there's a magic switch to turn off anxiety. I still have my moments of 3 a.m. worrying. But I have learned some gentle strategies that have made a world of difference. Mindful breathing and relaxation. Sounds simple, almost too simple, right? But taking slow, deep breaths has been my lifesaver. After that hospital scare, I started doing a very basic breathing exercise whenever I felt stress building. I'd sit down, close my eyes, inhale slowly through my nose counting to 4, then exhale through my mouth counting to 6 or 8, really emptying my lungs. I'd do this for 5 minutes. It's astonishing how much it can calm a racing heart and a racing mind. Sometimes I imagine with each exhale that I'm blowing out a little bit of my worry. Along with breathing, I experimented with relaxation techniques. One is progressive muscle relaxation, gently tensing and then releasing each muscle group from toes to head. It made me aware of how tightly I'd been holding myself. When I let go physically, mentally I let go a bit too. There are also guided meditation tapes, or YouTube videos, specifically for seniors or beginners that guide you to focus on peaceful imagery. I was skeptical at first, but picturing myself walking along a calm beach while listening to gentle guidance truly eased my mind. Over time, these practices trained my body to relax on cue. Now when I start getting worked up, I know I can pause, breathe, and find some calm. It's like a pressure valve releasing steam. Talk it out or write it down. Stress and worries feed on isolation. Keeping fears inside makes them grow in the dark. I found that talking to someone I trust about my worries often shrinks them. Sometimes just saying, "I'm scared about this medical test," out loud to my wife or a friend made the fear less overwhelming. If you're not comfortable sharing certain worries, try writing them in a journal. I started journaling in my mid-60s, just a private notebook where I'd scribble my thoughts, no matter how irrational or trivial. It was like transferring the weight from my mind to the paper. Once it's on paper, I often see it more clearly and realize, okay, I've survived a lot in life, I can handle this too. Or I identify steps to address the worry. If anxiety or depression feels too heavy, there's absolutely no shame in seeking professional help either. Therapists and support groups can provide tools to manage stress, and nowadays many specialize in issues of older adults. I went to a few counseling sessions after my retirement transition, and it helped me reshape my mindset immensely. I learned to focus on what I can control and release what I cannot. Stay active and engaged. This ties in with avoiding the earlier traps of inactivity and isolation, but it's very relevant to stress. I noticed that my worries are worst when I'm idle with nothing to distract me. By staying engaged in hobbies, volunteering, or even light exercise, I give my mind positive targets. When I'm engrossed in painting, a hobby I picked up, quite badly I might add, but it brings me joy, I enter a flow where anxieties fade into the background. Physical activity, whether a brisk walk or dancing in the living room, also burns off nervous energy and releases endorphins, natural mood lifters. After a 30-minute walk, problems often seem a bit smaller than before. It's like nature's therapy. In fact, on days I feel particularly down or anxious, I make it a point to get outside and move until I break a little sweat. It's hard to worry about the future when you're focused on putting one foot in front of the other and feeling the wind on your face. Limit the stressors you can control. At 60 plus, many of us have a habit of watching the news religiously or dwelling on negative media. I had a phase where I watched the nightly news and then an hour of some political commentary show. I realized it was filling me with anger and worry about things I personally could do nothing about. So I set some boundaries. I limited my news intake to maybe 30 minutes a day, and I avoid it right before bed. Instead, I might watch a lighthearted show or read something uplifting in the evening. Similarly, if certain people in your life are sources of constant stress, we all have that one friend who only complains or a relative who picks fights. It's okay to set gentle boundaries or limit exposure. It doesn't mean you don't care, it means you're caring for your own health. Choose calm and positive environments as much as you can. Attitude of gratitude. I used to scoff a bit at positive thinking advice, but I've found great value in practicing gratitude. Each morning or night, I silently list 3 things I'm grateful for. Some days it's grand, grateful for my grandson's visit, for my wife's love, for my stable health. Other days, when it feels like everything's going wrong, I go simpler. I'm alive, I have a roof over my head, that cup of coffee tasted good. This practice doesn't magically erase problems, but it shifts my perspective. It reminds me that life, even with its stresses, still has good moments and blessings. This calms me and builds resilience against stress. It's hard for fear to take full hold when your mind is also acknowledging goodness. Now, a personal story of triumph over stress. My friend Leonard, a fellow in his late 60s, lost his wife to cancer a few years back. His grief and stress were immense. He developed insomnia and high blood pressure. Leonard decided to join a local meditation group as a way to cope. He also started volunteering at a community garden. Over months, I watched a transformation in him. He became more serene. His blood pressure came down without additional meds. He would often tell me how focusing on his breath or digging his hands into soil and nurturing plants taught him to let go of the worries he couldn't control and find peace in the present moment. Leonard's story inspires me to this day. If he can find calm after such a storm, we all have that capability with the right tools. Escaping the stress trap is an ongoing process. Life will always have challenges, health scares, financial concerns, loss of loved ones, especially as we age. We can't eliminate stress, but we can strengthen our shield against it. Think of it like this. Each deep breath, each kind word to yourself, each joyful activity, and each good night's sleep adds a layer to your armor. With time, you become more resilient. You learn to distinguish between problems you can solve and those you must surrender. And remember, a little stress, like excitement before an event or concern that motivates you to plan, is okay. It's chronic, heavy stress that does the damage, so be kind to yourself. When you feel that weight of worry, treat yourself as you would a dear friend, with compassion, patience, and encouragement. You might say to yourself, I'm doing the best I can, and that's enough because it is enough. By managing stress, you're not just adding years to your life, you're adding quality to those years, more calm days and restful nights, which in turn boost your health. In summary, the stress trap loses its grip when we practice relaxation, share our burdens, stay active, and cultivate a hopeful outlook. Life after 60 can actually be one of the most peaceful chapters once we learn to let go of excessive worry. Your heart and mind deserve that peace. As the saying goes, worry never robs tomorrow of its sorrow, it only saps today of its joy. I try to remind myself of this often. Let's not let stress steal our joy or our time. We've worked too hard for these years. We can face whatever comes with a calmer spirit and a steady heart. 5. The sleepless trap, neglecting rest and sleep. Have you ever spent the night tossing and turning, only to rise feeling like a creaky old door the next morning? Insomnia or poor sleep can become more common as we age. I used to think struggling with sleep was just an annoying part of getting older, you know. Old man can't sleep, wakes up at 4 a.m. for no reason. But I learned that poor sleep is a silent trap of its own. It not only saps our energy and enjoyment of life, but it can also shorten our life if we ignore it. I discovered this after dozing off at the wheel one afternoon. Thank heavens, no one was hurt. That scare made me examine my sleep habits seriously for the first time. In my early 60s, I started waking up multiple times a night. Sometimes due to aches, sometimes nature's call, sometimes anxiety, often for no clear reason. By 3 or 4 a.m., I'd be wide awake. So by lunchtime, I'd be nodding off in my chair. My family noticed I was more irritable and forgetful. One evening, during a small get-together, I actually nodded off mid-conversation. It was embarrassing. I joked it off, but deep down I was concerned. Why am I sleeping so poorly, and what is it doing to me? The answer came partly from a sleep study I underwent. At the clinic, They found I had mild sleep apnea, brief interruptions in breathing that wake you, often without you realizing. It's fairly common in older folks, especially if you snore or carry extra weight. They also found what I already knew. My sleep hygiene was terrible. I'd watch TV until late, fall asleep with the lights on, sometimes doze off in the recliner, then stumble to bed at 1 a.m. My poor body had no consistent routine. No wonder it was confused. Chronic lack of restful sleep is like running a machine without ever turning it off for maintenance. Gradually, parts start failing. Studies have linked consistently short sleep, under 5 hours a night, with higher risks of heart disease, diabetes, and even earlier death. Interestingly, too much sleep, over 9 or 10 hours regularly, can also signal health issues and correlate with higher mortality. But for most of us, the issue is not oversleeping. It's not sleeping enough or well. In older adults, poor sleep has also been tied to memory troubles and a greater risk of dementia. Our brains do a lot of housekeeping during deep sleep, clearing out toxins, consolidating memories. When we shortchange ourselves on sleep, those processes don't work as well. I also learned that sleep affects mood and stress, which we just talked about. Ever notice how problems seem monumental at 2 a.m., but manageable in daylight after some rest? Without sleep, we're more prone to depression and anxiety. Physically, I felt the difference. After nights of bad sleep, my joints hurt more, my head felt foggy, and I even craved more sugary foods, a natural response, the body seeking quick energy. So what can we do to avoid or escape the sleepless trap? Thankfully, quite a bit. I had to make sleep a priority, almost like a hobby to get good at. It felt odd focusing on something as passive as sleep, but improving it changed my life. Here are some strategies that worked for me and others. Establish a gentle routine. Our bodies, especially as we age, love routine. I started going to bed and waking up at roughly the same time each day, even on weekends. At first, it was hard. My old habit was to watch the 11 o'clock news, which riled me up, then fall asleep whenever. I shifted things. I decided 10:30 p.m. was my new lights out time. I created a little pre-bed ritual. Around 9:30, I'd dim the lights, perhaps take a warm shower or drink a cup of herbal tea, caffeine-free of course. I'd then read something light or listen to soft music. This wind-down period was key. It sent a signal to my brain that we're transitioning towards sleep. After a couple of weeks, I noticed I was getting sleepy almost like clockwork during my routine. Optimize the sleep environment. I realized my bedroom needed some tweaks. I got heavier curtains to block street light, made sure the room was cool, around 65-68 degrees F, as experts often recommend for good sleep. And I invested in a better mattress topper to ease pressure on my hips and shoulders. I also removed or covered any small electronic lights, like that pesky glowing clock or phone charger. Darkness and quiet became my friends. Some people find a fan or white noise machine helpful. I personally enjoy a little background sound of a fan. It lulls me. The idea is to make your bedroom a cozy cave for sleep, free from distractions. Oh, and I stopped using my bed as a lounge for daytime reading or watching TV. Now I associate it only with sleep. And okay, sometimes an afternoon nap, but I try to keep naps short, under 30 minutes, so they don't mess up my night. Watch the stimulants and naps. Speaking of naps, I had to adjust a bit. I love a good nap, but I learned to keep them early, before 3 p.m. and brief. A long nap at 5 p.m. was basically stealing hours from my night's sleep. Also, I became more mindful of caffeine and alcohol. I now avoid caffeine past late afternoon. Even if I could fall asleep after an evening coffee, I found my sleep was lighter and more fragmented. As for alcohol, while a nightcap makes some people drowsy, it actually disrupts the later stages of sleep and can lead to 3 a.m. awakenings. I'm not saying you can't enjoy a glass of wine at dinner. Just know that too much or too late can boomerang on your sleep quality. Exercise, but not too late. Regular physical activity helps regulate sleep. On days I take a good walk or do some gardening, I sleep more soundly. Exercise relieves tension and signals to the body that recovery, through sleep, is needed. However, vigorous exercise an hour before bed can wake you up, so I try to keep my workouts to the morning or afternoon. In the evening, something like gentle yoga or stretching is great. It relaxes me without revving me up. Don't fight sleeplessness too hard. This sounds counterintuitive, but one of the worst things about insomnia is the anxiety it creates about itself. I'd look at the clock 1 o'clock a.m., 1:30 a.m., and think, oh no, I'm still not asleep, this is awful, I'll be so tired tomorrow, which made me even more anxious and awake. I learned a trick. If I'm awake for more than 20 minutes at night and feeling frustrated, I get up out of bed and go to another dim room. I might sit and read something calming, a dull magazine or a familiar book, nothing thrilling, or listen to very soft music. Once I feel a bit sleepy again, I go back to bed. This prevents my bed from becoming a place of stress. Also, I avoid watching the clock now. I actually turned my clock away so I'm not tempted to keep track. If I lose some sleep, I remind myself it's okay. I can function, I can maybe catch a short nap or go to bed earlier the next day. Taking the pressure off was important. Consider professional help if needed. Sometimes, sleep issues like sleep apnea or restless legs syndrome might need medical intervention. In my case, treating the mild sleep apnea with simple measures, losing a bit of weight, sleeping on my side, and doing breathing exercises made a difference. Some folks use CPAP machines for apnea. It can be a game changer for quality of life. If insomnia is severe, doctors might recommend short-term use of sleep aids or cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, CBTI, which is actually very effective without medication. Don't hesitate to seek help if you've tried everything and still struggle. Sleep is just too important to suffer through endlessly. I recall a touching success story. My aunt in her 70s had terrible insomnia for years after losing her husband. She'd sleep maybe 3 hours a night. Finally, she joined a sleep workshop at a local clinic. They taught her some techniques similar to what I described about routine, environment, etc. They also had her keep a sleep diary to identify patterns. Within a couple of months, she went from that miserable 3 hours to a solid 7 hours per night. The improvement in her mood and vitality was like night and day. She had been so fatigued and depressed. After getting better sleep, she was back to her cheerful, feisty self, even started a little baking business from home. It reinforced to me, sleep is the foundation of healthy living. If you fix sleep, a lot of other things, energy, appetite, mood, memory, fall into place. Now, sometimes older adults think, I'm old, I just need less sleep. True, our sleep might become more fragmented with age, and some need slightly fewer hours than younger folks. But generally, we still need around 7-8 hours of good sleep. Some may do fine on 6, some need closer to 9. Don't buy into the myth that it's okay to routinely get by on 4 hours. That's a trap that can wear you down. If you really can't sleep long at night, an organized schedule of 2 sleeps, night and a siesta midday, can work, as long as total adds up and you feel well rested. The key is listening to your body and ensuring you're not in a constant state of sleep deprivation. Since revamping my sleep habits, I rarely have those old sleepless nights. And when I do, I handle them better, no panicking, just patience. I awake more refreshed and my thinking is clearer. Importantly, my blood pressure, which was creeping up, stabilized, likely helped by better sleep and less nighttime stress. Good sleep truly heals. I often say it's the cheapest medicine, free and effective if we honor it. In dodging the sleepless trap, you gain brighter mornings and steadier health. Your days feel lighter when they're not fueled by sheer exhaustion. And those dreams you get during deep sleep. Sometimes I wake up with a smile from a pleasant dream of my childhood or a loved one. They are like little emotional nourishments. Don't deprive yourself of that nightly healing. Tuck yourself in with care each night, like you would a beloved child, because you deserve that tenderness too. With better sleep, you'll have the strength and alertness to fully enjoy the life you're working to prolong. After all, what good are extra years if you're too tired to live them? So let's prioritize our rest. It's one of the kindest gifts you can give to your aging body and mind. 6. The purpose trap, losing meaning and giving up. When I retired at 65, I was excited at first, no alarm clock, no deadlines. But after the initial honeymoon period, a strange emptiness set in. I woke up one morning and realized I had nowhere I had to be. No one really waiting on me, no big project to tackle. For decades, my life had been defined by work, raising kids, being useful. Suddenly, I felt adrift. Days blurred together. I watched too much TV, puttered around the house, and honestly felt a bit useless. This feeling, I came to understand, was me falling into what I call the purpose trap, the subtle danger of losing your sense of purpose or meaning in life after 60. And it can truly shorten your life in more ways than one. There's a true story that drives this home for me. My Uncle Sal. He was a hardworking electrician, talked for years about all the things he'd do once he retired. But when that day finally came, he didn't do much of anything. Without work, he lost his spark. He'd spend hours just sitting on the porch, watching cars go by, sipping whiskey. "I'm just waiting it out," he once told me with a sad chuckle. We all knew what he meant waiting out the rest of life. Within a few years of retirement, Sal's health declined rapidly. He developed heart problems and depression. By 70, he passed away, much too soon in my opinion. I can't help but wonder if things would have been different if he had found a new passion or purpose for those years. On the flip side, I think of a woman from my community, Miss Doreen, who is 88 and still as vivacious as ever. What's her secret? In part, it's that she has a clear purpose. She runs a little neighborhood pantry from her garage, collecting canned goods for those in need. Every morning, she's up early checking inventory, making calls, coordinating volunteers. She jokes, "I don't have time to die, I have too much to do." There's truth in humor. Her sense of purpose keeps her young at heart and incredibly healthy for her age. This contrast between Uncle Sal and Miss Doreen highlights a lesson researchers have also found. Having a reason to get up in the morning can influence how long and well you live. A study of older adults showed that those who felt their life had purpose were significantly less likely to die over the following years than those who felt more aimless. They specifically had lower rates of heart and blood conditions. Scientists believe that a strong sense of purpose encourages healthier behaviors and resilience to stress. It's like the mind and body say, "We need to stay well, we have important things to do." Conversely, when someone essentially gives up on finding meaning, the body can enter a decline, activity drops, the will to maintain health wanes. There's even a term, retirement depression, for those who struggle to find identity after leaving the workforce. Now, purpose doesn't have to mean some grand mission to save the world. It's deeply personal. It could be being the best grandparent you can be, tending a garden, faith and spiritual practice, volunteering, learning new skills, creating art, or even taking care of a pet. It's whatever gives you a sense of fulfillment and usefulness. Without it, life can feel hollow, and that emotional void can translate into physical illness or a shorter lifespan. With it, each day has light, and challenges become motivators rather than burdens. I'll admit, after I retired, I floundered for a year or two with this. I had hobbies, but they felt unimportant. The kids were grown and didn't need me as before. I wondered, what now? I even fell into a mild depression, though I didn't realize it at the time. I was bored and listless. What saved me was a piece of advice from a mentor of mine, an older gentleman from my church. He told me, "The world may not demand much of you now, so you must demand it of yourself. Set a goal, however small, every day." So I started setting little goals. Fix the fence, organize a photo album, write a short story. I always fancied writing. In pursuing these, I found myself more engaged. Then I took a bigger step and volunteered to mentor some at-risk youth in my town through a community center. Suddenly, once a week I had a young teenager to talk to advise, or mostly just listen to. I began to feel needed again. That feeling, being useful in someone's life, pumped new blood into my veins. I kid you not, I started sleeping better, walking with a spring in my step. My wife commented that I seemed alive when I came home from those sessions, eager to share stories of my mentees' progress. Purpose. It's powerful medicine. So how do we dodge the purpose trap, especially if we feel it closing in on us? Rediscover old passions or find new ones. Think back to things you loved but never had time for. Maybe you used to play guitar in your youth, or paint, or dreamed of writing a memoir. Maybe you always wanted to travel, or learn about history or genealogy. Now is your chance. Immersing yourself in a passion, new or old, gives you goals and joys. For me, it was writing. I started jotting down memories and little stories, and eventually I compiled them into a small memoir for my family. That project gave me a reason to get up and write a bit each day. A friend of mine took up woodworking at 70 and began crafting beautiful birdhouses. Another lady I know joined a choir and discovered a love for singing she never knew she had. The key is to be curious and courageous. It's okay to try something and decide it's not for you, then try something else. The exploration itself is stimulating. Be of service, big or small, nothing rekindles a sense of purpose like helping others. It reminds us that our life experience and skills are valuable. Perhaps you can tutor kids like I did, or volunteer at a hospital to cuddle newborns, or deliver meals to the homebound. Maybe you're great at knitting. You could make hats for chemo patients. Even informal acts of service, like regularly checking in on a neighbor or becoming active in community or religious groups, can anchor you with responsibility and meaning. One gentleman I admire started a Grandpa's Fix-It club in his community, a group of retirees who help neighbors with minor home repairs. They are busy as ever and loving it. When you contribute, you affirm to yourself, I matter. And indeed, you do. Connect purpose with social life. We talked about avoiding isolation. Purpose often intertwines with connection. Join clubs or groups related to your interests. Love reading? Join a book club, even online ones. Passionate about gardening? Community gardens often welcome seniors' expertise. If faith is important, engage more deeply with your faith community. Perhaps start a study group or a charity drive. When you pursue purpose alongside others, it magnifies the fulfillment and keeps you accountable. You might hesitate to skip that meetup if you know others count on you. That bit of commitment is healthy. It propels you forward on days motivation lags. Lifelong learning, keeping the mind engaged by learning new things, can create a sense of purpose too. Many community colleges allow seniors to audit classes for free or cheap. I took a course on world history, not for a grade, just for the pure pleasure of learning. It gave me structure, weekly lectures to attend, and fired up my neurons. Some friends of mine have taken courses on everything from photography to computer skills to even learning a new language in their 70s. One is determined to learn Spanish to converse with his daughter-in-law. Each chapter you master, each skill you gain, instills pride and purpose. It's proof that we can keep growing, not just growing old. Set meaningful goals. These don't have to be huge like write a novel, though if you want to go for it. They can be personal. Improve my physical fitness so I can hike with my grandson next summer, or organize a family reunion, or volunteer 10 hours a month. Goals give a roadmap to purpose. They pull you forward. I recall setting a goal to run, jog, a 5K charity race at 66. Training for it was a purpose that improved my health and confidence. Crossing that finish line, slowly but I did it, was euphoric. The next day I thought, okay, what's next? That's the power of achieving a goal. It makes you hungry for more life. Now I must address that sometimes purpose can wane due to circumstances like loss of a spouse or health issues that limit activities. If you find yourself in such a position, be kind to yourself. Purpose can be scaled to your abilities. After my wife passed, this is hypothetical, thankfully she's still with me, but I imagine if it happened, I know I'd be devastated and it would be hard to find meaning. But perhaps I'd dedicate myself to honoring her memory, maybe setting up a scholarship in her name, or simply tending her beloved rose garden. Purpose can be found in memories and legacy too. Maybe you choose to write down family history for the next generation, becoming the keeper of stories. Or you might take the role of a mentor or confidant to someone younger who is going through what you did. Our hardships, once healed enough, often shape our purpose by enabling us to guide others. There's also what I call micro-purpose. Even if you're limited physically, you can aim to spread kindness each day as a purpose. Perhaps make one person smile each day by a phone call, or complimenting a stranger, or sharing a funny anecdote with a caregiver. These small purposeful acts are like drops of oil, keeping the engine of life running smoothly. I remember meeting a gentleman at a nursing home who said his purpose each day was to sing one song in the common area to cheer others up. He wasn't a particularly good singer, mind you, but that didn't matter. Folks smiled, clapped, even sang along sometimes. "I just want to make someone's day brighter," he told me. That was enough purpose to keep him going with a twinkle in his eye well into his late 80s. Science supports this deeply human truth. Those with a reason to live, live longer and better. Conversely, if you feel you have nothing to live for, that thought itself can become a self-fulfilling trap, leading to withdrawal, declining health, and sadly, a quicker exit. But as long as you're breathing, you have a purpose, even if you haven't discovered it yet. Sometimes it requires stepping out of your comfort zone and trying something new. Sometimes it means revisiting whatever brought you joy and meaning in the past and adapting it to now. For me nowadays, one strong purpose is sharing wisdom, hence why I'm passionate about things like this Glowing Age channel. I believe our generation has so much to teach and contribute. Every person over 60 is a walking library of experiences. What a purpose it can be to share that, through mentoring, writing, speaking, or simply conversing openly with family. Don't think for a second that because you're older, you're not needed. You are needed more than ever by society, by your community, by your loved ones. Your unique gifts, skills, and love are your legacy. In dodging the purpose trap, you fill your days with meaning. And here's the beautiful kicker. When you have purpose, it fills you with life. There's a glow of vigor that can often be seen. I've had people tell me, "You look great, like you found a new lease on life." And I smile, knowing it's largely because I'm living for something, not just existing. It doesn't mean every day is rosy. We all have down days. But having that underlying sense of I have a reason to be here acts like a North Star guiding you through even the rough patches. So ask yourself, what makes me feel alive? What do I care about deeply? Whatever popped into your head, that might be a clue to your next purpose. Nurture it, talk about it, plan for it. It's never too late to find new meaning. As long as we're here, there's a purpose to be found and fulfilled. By doing so, you're not only likely to live longer, but your life will feel richer, more satisfying. And that, my friend, is the ultimate reward. Conclusion: stepping out of the traps and embracing life. We've journeyed through 6 silent traps, from the cozy allure of inactivity to the dark fog of loneliness, from hidden stress to sleepless nights, poor diets to purposeless days. If some of these hit close to home, don't be disheartened. The very fact that you're listening and reflecting now means you have the power to change course. Awareness is the first step out of any trap. I often think of a quote I love: "It's never too late to be what you might have been." In our context, it means it's never too late to live healthier, happier, and longer. You might feel, well, I've already fallen into some of these traps for years. Is the damage done? The encouraging truth is that the human body and spirit are remarkably resilient. Studies have shown that even if you've led an unhealthy lifestyle, making positive changes in your 60s or beyond still provides significant benefits. Quit smoking now, and your lungs start to heal. Start walking now, and your heart grows stronger. Make a new friend now, and your soul brightens. Find a purpose now, and each morning gains new light. Each trap we discussed comes with its antidote. Move a bit more, choose wholesome foods, stay connected, manage stress, prioritize sleep, and find meaning. You don't have to do it all at once. In fact, I suggest picking one area at a time. Maybe this week you focus on moving daily and reaching out to a loved one. Next week, you add in a consistent bedtime or swap a processed snack for a fruit. Small steps, taken consistently, lead to big changes. Over several months, you might just amaze yourself at how far you've come. Perhaps your doctor will be pleasantly surprised at your next checkup, or your family will notice you're more cheerful and energetic. As a wise elder, or so they call me these days, I can say, the goal isn't to avoid death, none of us can, but to enhance life. We want to extend the good years, push back frailty and decline as much as possible, and savor the gift of time. I want to dance at my granddaughter's wedding. I want to see what inventions and wonders the world comes up with in the next 20 years. We all have moments we look forward to. By dodging these traps, we increase our chances of being there for those moments and enjoying them in good health. Think of these changes not as depriving yourself of rest, of tasty food, etc., but as loving yourself. You're giving your body movement because you love it and want it to serve you well. You're giving yourself nourishing food because you deserve to feel strong. You seek friends or community because your heart deserves companionship. You manage stress and prioritize sleep because you merit peace and rest. You pursue purpose because your life is valuable and your contributions matter. Each positive action is a vote for life. I recall an image. Life in our later years is like a garden. If we tend it, water it with healthy habits, prune the weeds of bad habits, plant seeds of new activities, it will bloom beautifully, full of color and fragrance, which represent joy and meaning. Neglected, it can wither. The 6 traps we discussed are like neglect or pests. But you, the wise gardener, now know how to recognize and address them. It's a labor of love to cultivate a thriving life at any age. If you ever falter, because we all do, I still sometimes spend too long in the armchair or eat that donut or feel down, remember that tomorrow is a new day. I like to repeat, I'm still here so I can still make a difference in my health. No matter if you're 60, 70, 80, or beyond, if you wake up to a new day, that day is yours to shape, even in small ways. And those small ways add up to what we call longevity. One more story to leave you with hope. A gentleman named John, who lived to 94, once gave a talk at a senior event I attended. He had been a smoker until 60, overweight and sedentary until a health scare at 65. Then he overhauled his life bit by bit. He quit smoking, started walking every morning, changed his diet to mostly home-cooked meals, and began volunteering at a library. He loved books. He said the last 30 years of his life, from 65 to 94, were far healthier and happier than the decades before. He met the love of his life in his 70s and married her. At 94, he was witty, sharp, and grateful. He ended his talk by saying, "I'm proof it's never too late. I almost cut my life short, but I turned it around and gained decades. You can too." I'll never forget that. He dodged the traps and won back years of life. Now it's our turn. Let's dodge these silent traps together. We've earned our wisdom through years, now let's use it to make the most of the years ahead. Take it one day at a time and celebrate each positive choice you make. You might find that not only do you live longer, but you live brighter. Thank you for spending this time with me, listening to this wise old grandpa's tales and advice. I truly hope it inspires you to take loving action in your life. Remember, age is just a number. What counts is how we feel and live. With a little vigilance and a lot of heart, we can ensure our later years are not defined by regret or decline, but by growth, connection, and fulfillment. Stay healthy, stay hopeful, and keep that inner light glowing. Until next time, take care of yourself. You've got a lot of life left to live, and I want you to live it in a glowing age of joy and vitality.